I just want to make one more video and tell you about an experience that happened to me, and my goodness, it was profound. To this day, I'll never forget. And it happened to me in Oregon. I had a very short time in Oregon. And basically, I got a job in Boise, Idaho. And it was over, I got the job right before the Easter break. And so they sent me right away to get my drug test and everything. So I knew they were very interested because they have to pay for the drug test. So I was pretty sure I might have a job, but I had to wait until Easter break was over to find out. And I thought, well, I've got sort of a long weekend. I think I'll go up and see Oregon. And I've heard it's pretty. And, Boise is only about maybe 30 minutes from the Oregon border. So I booked a room up in a little mountain town in Oregon, and I went up there. Well, at first it went really well at first, and then I also visited their employment office because I thought, well, even though I thought I was getting a job in Idaho, I thought, let's just see what Oregon has to say. And they were very encouraging to me. They said, with your qualifications, we could definitely get you something. And so I was kind of excited about that. And I thought they were very good people, and really I had a good connection with them. And so I did some other stuff, but then I got to feeling really bad. And one of the reasons I was feeling bad was my heart. Now, I had gone to a mountain town. So that means that there was elevation, and that does affect your cardiovascular system. And I was feeling very stressed. I moved out to Idaho, and I forget where I came. I think it was in Nebraska, and I went to Idaho. Anyway, and it was a long trip, and I was pretty tired, and I was pretty stressed. And then I went through job interviews and trying to get a job and all this. And in an unfamiliar place. I mean, it's a lot of stress. And so my heart started messing up. And I do have a heart problem that was by virtue of having cancer, which damaged my heart. Actually, the chemo damaged my heart. The cancer didn't. But anyway, I was out of my medication for it, because I do take some medication for it. And I thought, well, I think I'd better go see the hospital or somebody. And I didn't want to go to the ER because, they charge you thousands of dollars, and then you end up paying most of that. And so I thought, well, I think I'll try to go to a clinic. And I went to the clinic, but the clinic wouldn't refill my medication for me. They'd prescribe it, they wouldn't refill it. Anyway, it was not nice. I wasn't treated very well. And I was a little upset. So then I tried to go to the ER because they suggested, well, if you don't like what we're doing, why don't you go to the ER? And I didn't want to, but I decided to. And the ER, for some reason, I could tell you that whole story, but it was goofball. And they did not treat me well at all. And I'm not really sure why. I don't know exactly what happened. But I thought, wow, they're not being nice to me, and I don't think I'm going to get good treatment. And I thought, well, something that had happened to me not very long ago was that I had a policeman kind of talk to the hospital, and it helped me get decent treatment. So I thought, well, I really think this is important. I really felt really bad. I mean, I really thought my heart was really having some problems. And so I tried to call the police to see if they would intervene for me. Well, the police came and threatened to arrest me. And I said, for what? And, well, you misused 911. And I'm like, well, let me fast forward a little bit. I did not misuse 911 because the next day, after I went through hell on earth in this particular little town in Oregon, I found out I actually was having a heart attack. So I did not misuse 911. I had every right to call them. But he comes and he has they look like SWAT team or something, and they've got, they're heavily armed, and he shines his lights, and they had like body lights that they shined in my eyes, and he said, "You ever been arrested?" And I went, "No." I'm like, "I'm a nice lady. Nice ladies don't get arrested." And, "Well, I should arrest you." And I thought, "For what?" And, "Well, you misused 911." And I was like, and I just sat there going, what is this guy's problem? And so he was really mean. And it was very upsetting to me. And so I ended up leaving the hospital, not getting treatment at all. And then I had a hard time. I didn't know the city very well. And so I was like, I was upset. I was crying. And I had a hard time finding my way back to my room because I really kind of couldn't remember where it was. And so I just didn't know what to do. And as I drove by an office, it said Department of Human Services. And I said, I'm going to go talk to them. And so I went in, and I was just crying my eyes out at the time because it had been very upsetting. They let me go. They didn't arrest me, but he threatened me and everything, and it was just, and I was not feeling well. Well, anyway, I went into the Department of Human Services, and they saw how distressed I was. And one of the workers, a lady there, she said, "Come back here and talk to me." And I did. And so I told her what had happened with the hospital, but I also told her my story, my history, etc. So I gave her quite a bit of information. And I have had quite the life. And I don't mean like living it up. I mean like I've had a rough life. And so anyway, she listened, and she had tears. She cried because of the sadness that I've been through. And I was just like, this person feels so bad for me, she's crying. I mean, tears running down her. I think it's the only time I've ever experienced that. I think it is the only time I've ever experienced that. And I was touched. I can't begin to tell you. And I think it was very genuine. I don't think she made that up or anything. I think it was very genuine. And I was like, wow. So, I did something tonight that stirred up all this stuff, in case you're wondering why I'm coming out with True Confessions. But it was amazing to have somebody care enough and have enough empathy that they actually cried tears. I'll never forget that. And anyway, what ended up, I'm sorry, I'm always hitting the camera. I got to quit that. I talk with my hands. So what ended up was they pulled me in the back room, and I talked to another gentleman that was, I don't know what he was. He was in charge of something. And he wanted me to make complaints. And he said, we'll help you make complaints. And I did make complaints. And one of the people that I made complaints to was the hospital system. And I actually did hear from them. And they got me to a hospital down the mountain, at the bottom of the mountain, the next day. But, and I was supposed to stay there many days. I had booked quite a long time there with them, and I had to get out. I had to see if they would let me out of it. They did, and I canceled. And then the next morning there was ice on the mountain roads, and I said, I am so gonna die, and here I am feeling bad and everything. But the beauty of that is that as you go down a mountain, the temperature rises, and so I didn't have ice very long. But halfway down the mountain, the hospital system calls me and wants to know what's going on and did I ever get treatment. And they said, well, we want you to go to one of our hospitals further down the mountain. And I was like, when a hot place freezes over, I don't want this type of treatment again. And she says, we're going to call them and talk to them. You're not going to get that type of treatment again. And I went, all right, if you're sure. And she was sure. And sure enough, I went down and they treated me appropriately. And I know that because I actually know what tests are supposed to be run. I'm very familiar with this little heart problem. and I know what they're supposed to do, and they did the right things. And so I did get treated and all, but yeah, I just wanted to say I was so touched that somebody had enough empathy and caring for me that it actually moved them to tears. And I do think that's the only time in my life that that's happened. It really struck me.